Ask any race car driver, and faster is always better. So let's kick up the speed a notch as we get ready for qualifying in the Porsche Sprint Challenge North America GT3 Cup Series. I'm Joe Peak, and I'll be joined by Roush Racing driver Joey Atterbury in a moment, as the drivers are already on track here at Sonoma Raceway. So qualifying going to be quite important here at Sonoma. Drivers seeing few passing opportunities at this track. It's going to be very important for them to try and find some track position. You can see we've been riding on board with Kelly here in the 208 for the start of this session. 25 minutes that the drivers get. We have two classes racing here in the GT3 Cup Series. The Masters and, of course, the Pro-Ams. They're driving in the same cars. Only difference is the driver rating. Just now getting our first laps on the board. Alan Metney looking like he has the provisional pole. Scott Blend, who is kind of double dipping, I guess triple dipping this weekend, as he is running not only here in the North America Series, but the USA West, which is sharing this weekend here at Sonoma, and of course in the Endurance Challenge, which we'll have next weekend, or excuse me, tomorrow, a few days from now, as drivers will find themselves tested not only in terms of the Sprint Challenge here, but of course in how well they can race over a much longer distance. I've got Joey Atterbury in here with me now, and Joey, it does look like that Alan's kind of picking up where we saw him let off a little bit earlier on in practice. He's been looking quick all weekend.
Yeah, definitely out there in that number 298 car. Is qualifying is just starting to really get rolling out here. About 14 and a half minutes remaining. Like you said, Metney still on top of the board. That last lap time out of him, a 138.61. Down into second, McDonald's down there at a 138.72. So both of those cars in that Pro-Am class, Metney ahead of McDonald, and just as I say that, looks like Kelly goes up into P2, but P1 in that 992 Masters class at a 138.10.
Blake is definitely going to be an interesting one to watch because he comes over from the USA West Series last time around and was very quick over there, and he is just as quick here in the North America Series, which has a slightly larger field. We watched Therese Lalou really have to weave her way down through the final chicane, taking lots of curb down through there. It does seem like some of the drivers maybe a little bit more willing to be aggressive through there in these GT3 Cup cars than the Caymans, Joey.
I think just the performance window with the GT3 Cup cars is a little bit greater overall. Remember, they're still using that same 4-liter 6-cylinder engine, over 500 horsepower in both the Cayman and the GT3 Cup car. But I think that these cars that we're watching out here, the Cup cars, right, just a little bit more aerodynamics, a little bit bigger tire, a little bit bigger brakes on there. So it just kind of does everything that little bit better than what the Cayman does, and so the lap times usually reflect that as well.
Back down through the hill here for Therese, and I think that is that looked like DeJesus maybe in front of her. Currently sitting 7th in the Masters against, again, two different classes that are running out there this season, and she's catching him pretty quickly. Yeah, it looks like he's going to just kind of pull off to the side as DeJesus does not want to interrupt her, seeing that she is on a hot lap. And Therese has often said that one thing she wants to improve is her qualifying performances, that she feels like it's one of the weaker aspects of her game out here. So let's see if she can get any higher than this 3rd in class, 5th overall right now, which I'd say is not too bad.
just watching the attitude of the car, wow, really getting after it right there in the turn 9-9A chicane, just using up all of that apex curb, really trying to maximize, or I should say minimize the lap time out there. You want to keep it as short as possible, and I think I saw that her Sector 1 was her personal best first sector out there. So right now she's got a 140.008 on the board. She's going to cross the time right now. And let's see if she is able to improve at a 139.16. So not quite as fast, but sometimes it's out there and starting to get into the rhythm. And you see even the hands. She's got those bright yellow driving gloves on, so you really get to see her hands inside the car and just see how much work these drivers are actually doing around Sonoma.
Definitely helps us to be able to really see and visualize the work that goes on. And yeah, she is using up this track as much as she can. I believe this is her home circuit as well, so this one a little bit more important for that she can perform, and might have a few secrets out there. As the 233 of Kron, Reinhold coming around as he is currently sitting third in that Masters class, so actually doing quite well, although he's a bit off of Blendon Kelly, who is currently up at the top of that class.
You saw really using all of the turn 3A exit curb, and that means you're going up over the crest of that hill pretty much at maximum rolling speed for the car, not to get it into the dirt, but use up all of those alligators on that exit curb out there. And once again, just kind of feeling out that exit curb at the bottom of the carousel. So I think a lot of these Cup drivers that we've been watching really getting after the track and using it to its advantage, right? Sometimes you have to open up the radius, use those entry curbs, use those exit curbs to get your speed.
Right now, Caden Kelly is our quickest in that Masters category, sitting on a 38.1. Reinhold, who we're watching, is on a 39.5. That's a pretty decent gap up to there that he's got to try and make up. But Reinhold's last two sectors were personal bests. If he can keep this up in the third sector, it'll certainly put him closer. Let's see if it'll jump him ahead of Lalu and McDonald, who are in the Pro-Am class, off turn 11, last real corner, and then it's flat out here through 12 and to the line. As he crosses, it looks like it stays at a 39.1, so unfortunately not able to improve.
No, I think that actually was his fastest lap, because I see fastest Sector 1, Sector 2, Sector 3. So, Joe, you are right. I'm arguing about minutia over here. He didn't jump up in the order per se, but he did improve his lap time. So he is making progress.
Yeah, so he's getting closer. It's now 1.1 seconds off the overall pole, which is actually pretty close to, it's 0.05 of a second between Kelly and Metney in the overall there on the front row. So our Masters pole sitter very, very close to Metney, our Pro-Am pole sitter at this stage. Checking in with the 297 of Eric Lapp. He is fifth in that Pro-Am class, 10th overall. JDX Racing, the team for this 297. Therese Lalu, a part of that team. In fact, quite a few cars underneath that tent, so I'm sure there's a lot of shared data to help them.
Well, just in this session alone, right, you've got Lalu out there with JDX, you've got Lapp, and then you've also got Johnson. So JDX Racing has 3 of the GT3 Cup cars in this, call it 15-car entry field out here. And yeah, having those teammates to lean on, and also the driver coaches and your entire team back there just to make sure the car is dialed in, it's just more information. It's more data points for you to go out there and kind of reference yourself out there, and you can always pick up time from somebody else.
First sector doesn't look like an improvement for Lapp, so not sure if he's on a flyer here. He's just finishing up the second sector, and then the third one is basically the chicane and the hairpin. That's all you've mostly got to it. And I'm not showing an improvement on that second sector. So this could be a cool down lap for him to try and set up for another go.
Yeah, and just visually watching here, you can see from the overhead shot, already off the gas. I think he's going to be maybe even yielding to a car behind. Looks like he's finally back on it, and I think that's the smart thing in qualifying. Kind of judge your gaps, right? You never want to have pressure behind, but if you're focused forward, okay, let's make sure I've got a clean racetrack outside my windshield out there, so that way I can just focus on my brake points. I can focus on those rolling speeds, nailing every single apex you can.
Exactly. And starts that new lap here up and across turn 2. Then it's going to switch back across to set up for 3 and 3A. This is a corner that has been catching out many drivers already this weekend alone. And as he comes over the hill, he leaves quite a bit of margin on that left-hand side.
Always a sign that you can pick up in video, right? Or that little bits of data that we were talking about with your teammates out there. You can see maybe the rolling speed could go a little bit higher through 3A and kind of apply that next time out. A little bit wide out there in turn 6 as well, kind of closes it in on the back half of the corner, but doing a nice job going down this straightaway. Let's see about the brake zone here. You see the nose of the car really dive down towards the ground. Make sure all those shock settings are perfect, and that weight transfer looks to be on point.
So that's a good sign, although he's got a little bit of traffic in front of him coming down through the S's now. It's about the last place that you want it. So into the braking, that car will pull out of the way. Sounds like we have a breach of regulations, if I'm seeing correctly.
I think maybe one of the cars is going to put on a new tire, so whether that was from a flat spot or running off the track and picking up rocks or whatever it may be, if you change that tire out there, you're going to basically lose all of your qualifying lap times.
Interesting. And he was sitting second in the Pro-Ams and 4th overall, and he's got precious little time to try and make it up. Now remember, he'll need 2 laps to get himself a grid spot in each of this weekend's races. So he's basically only going to have time for 2, maybe 3 laps.
As we watch these 2 cars go around, so that's been the 297, and this is also the 214 here of Treffert. So we were talking about setting up your lap and making sure you got nothing outside of your windshield so that way you can focus on your marks. Unfortunately for Treffert, he's got the opposite problem. It seems like he might be a little bit faster right now and is actually getting held up by that car.
It's not working out well for Treffert because he's on the lap, and I guess he could back out now if he feels like he is being held up, but he's not doing so as DeJesus, watching that blue and white 221 come around here through 2 and into 3 and 3A, and then switching back up over the crest of the hill. Comes down into 4. Does look like it's a decent one so far. We'll see what his first sector time looks like, because we do have to wait for that. He sits 7th in the Masters category, having come over here to the 992s after competing in the 991.2 last season.
And just picking up where you left off is that his Sector 1, fastest Sector 1 that he has put down here for this qualifying session. So yeah, he is on a flyer right now. 4 minutes remaining out here in this GT3 Cup qualifying session. So even if you don't get this lap on the board, you'll at least have 1, if not 2 more.
Now, I've been showing Blake McDonald still in pit lane from my timing and scoring. So I'm not sure if he's gone back out and then parked it, or if he's still waiting to get back out on the track here. If he is still waiting to get back out on the track, he's going to have to hustle.
100%, because like you said, you got to do the out lap and then begin your timed lap. Now, the one good thing is that as long as you can start that timed lap before the checkered flag comes out, you'll be able to finish that lap under the checkered flag. But you got to get there and start it first.
Here we wait for the lap time for DeJesus. He'll cross the line. Doesn't look like he improves on that 44.3. We have precious few cars still out on the track. Caden Kelly is out there. Treffert, Gilliland, and of course DeJesus still on the circuit. I do see Therese Lalou looking like she's on an out lap, so she'll return and maybe try to pick up a last little bit and one final go to improve on her 3rd place.
And as a driver, sometimes all you need is a trip down pit road. Just kind of give yourself a new piece of racetrack, a new, call it change of scenery out there. If you're used to catching one of those red cars, maybe go out there and chase a blue car or have nothing out there in your way. So the other thing that coming down pit lane or taking that little break does, it cools everything else down in the car. So let's say if you've gone out there and maybe pushed the car at 11 tenths, everything starts to get a little bit hot. The tires start to get a little bit greasy because you're kind of abusing them out there. That little bit of a couple-minute break can help cool everything back down, not just the driver, but the car as well.
Now on board with the 208 of Kelly here. I mentioned this earlier, 500ths off the overall pole. Is it worth it to him to try and get by Alan Metni here? He's back out on track, still pushing hard, coming around that final hairpin and to the line. This isn't showing green sectors for me. He'll cross over, and it wasn't an improvement. Enough time for one more lap. He might actually get to the checkered flag, or get the line before the checkered flag. And this is, I can tell you, a very easy car to spot out on the track. This beautiful sort of magenta, purple, and blue machine really sticks out.
Let's see, as this is pretty much the end of Sector 1 as you get to the top of the hill before you get to Turn 4 right here. As they're already working their way down into what is turn number 5. Well, as soon as these sector times pop up, we'll be able to give you a good reference. And Sector 1, probably not as fast as he would have liked it. Maybe a couple tenths of a second off of optimum pace out there. So he's going to have to make up for it in the back half of this racetrack.
So got Lalu out there, Treffert, and then DeJesus. So just a couple cars. Everybody else has come down into pit lane, which means we will not see Blake McDonald back out there. He might have to start from the back of the field. The clock ticks down to about 30 seconds left to go. It's pretty soon going to be qualifying over. And again, remember, this is for both races in the weekend here for the GT3 Cup cars in the North America Series. You've got to try and get a good one in for both of your events.
So Caden was very, very aggressive over what was the turn 8 curbing, and I think he already realized that as you see him enter pit road right here, that after Sector 1 and maybe trying to get a little bit more out of the car in Sector 2, just the lap time wasn't adding up, and opts to bring it down into pit lane. And I would assume park it for qualifying, as it looks like we've already got checkered flag waving at start-finish.
Oh, that's way too deep for DeJesus. It looked like he was on a good lap. He may have run it too far into the final corner. First two sectors were personal best for him. He'll cross the line. He does improve, but it's not enough to get him out of 12th place. It's a 43.7 for DeJesus. And now we wait for just the last couple cars as Treffert is still out there. Lalu just crosses the line. She does not improve. She will stay in 5th overall.
Pretty impressive lap times, especially from our first couple, though. I know that it is pole sitter for Metni in that Pro-Am, and then it's also pole for Caden Kelly in the Masters class. But if we just kind of look at the outright performance of the car, you'd said it, 5/100ths of a second separating those top two drivers.
Treffert will complete his final lap, but he does not go quicker, a 39.2, and he will stay 4th in the Masters, 7th overall, which is our field now having settled it out with everybody having completed qualifying. So, unofficially, our order will see Alan Metni on the pole position, and that is for the Pro-Ams, while the Masters pole right next to him, Caden Kelly, will start P2 overall. Then from 3rd overall, it's Scott Blend. Blake McDonald is probably going to be pushed to the back of the field, but his initial laps were good enough for 4th. 5th was Therese Lalu. Cron in the 6th position. Then it's Treffert in 7th, Tutino in P8, and Gilliland 9th. Joel Johnson rounding out your top 10. Eric Lapp 11th, and DeJesus in 12th. Womack, Amon, and Hutter did not set times in this qualifying session. The USA West Series will join us now here at Sonoma in a few moments' time. More qualifying here to come today at Sonoma Raceway.
It's hard to contain your excitement when you get something you've really wanted. Like the gold standard in automotive protection, WeatherTech floor liners. With deep sculpted channels and laser measured for total protection in the front, back, and even up the sides.
Dad, you're going viral.
What? WeatherTech me.
So don't be shy, enjoy. Order your premium American-made products at WeatherTech.com.
Experience the ultimate thrill, Porsche GT Track Day, where passion meets performance on some of North America's most legendary racetracks. Designed exclusively for Porsche owners, this is your chance to unleash the full potential of your vehicle in a motorsport environment. Drive the same circuits as professional racers, on the same weekend as Porsche Sprint Challenge events. Where will your Porsche take you? With limited space, every Porsche GT Track Day ensures a premium, exclusive experience. You'll get nearly 3 hours of track time, starting with reconnaissance laps, progressing through lead-follow sessions, and culminating in exhilarating open laps. Plus, strap in for heart-pounding hot laps with a professional race driver.
I thought I was fast. Didn't resemble anything that I've ever done.
Beyond the track, immerse yourself in VIP hospitality, premium viewing areas, and exclusive paddock access where you can witness Porsche Sprint Challenge teams in action. Spots are limited. Scan the QR code now to reserve your place at Porsche GT Track Day.
The first half of the North America GT3 Cup Series has qualified. Now it's time for Group 2 here at this beautiful California Raceway. They have split the field up, and now we get to see what the rest of them are able to do out on the track. I'm Joe Peak with Joey Atterbury here to join us today in the booth. And Joey, it does look like that we've been getting a few results that we weren't expecting with some of the drivers. It seems like this is almost a bit of a specialist place for some people.
Sonoma can be a very tricky racetrack. It can be a very difficult racetrack if this is, call it, your first time out here, especially for a competition weekend. Getting up to speed can be very difficult. There's tons of elevation throughout this entire racetrack. Lots of corners, lots of apexes, lots of turn exits are completely unsighted to the driver when you're actually sitting in that cockpit behind that dashboard. So, yes, kind of to your point, Joe, it can be very tricky out there, and I think it's going to carry into the race as well.
No doubt it will, as the drivers on track and getting ready to set their first times. I think most of them on an outlap at this stage. Watch out for Kleck out there, because he is very fast, as we saw in the first race of the season. Cole, as he likes to go by, has come back to try and see if he can dominate out here in California as well as he did back in Florida, as now we get drivers across the timing line and getting the stopwatch to start counting away. It's a slightly bigger group, but very similar size to what we saw in the previous session just a few moments ago, and similar amount of time to try and set a qualifying lap. You see, it looks like a couple cars maybe trying to back up on the end of their outlap here to try and set themselves up, just to try and time this out and get themselves a nice bit of clear track.
I like that. I think that there's a few different methods to approach your qualifying session. And for me, rule number one, make sure you have your own piece of racetrack. It doesn't matter if you're out in front of the group or if you're way back behind the group. And remember, Kleck was our first one off of pit road, so he's now just reaching that end of the drag strip down there, all the way at one end of the racetrack. So there it is, lots of open racetrack in front of him. So if you're one of those, call it, straggling cars on the tail end of the line, it's actually beneficial to slow down even more, really get your own little piece of racetrack, a little own piece of heaven out there to go qualify on.
This is Tillman Schmid that we see coming around in the 277. Try and get himself a good time out of the chicane there down towards the hairpin of 11. We've got a few drivers actually coming over from the West Series this year as well. Josh Conley, one of those. Laura Eli joining. And then Washington also coming over to try his trade here in the North America Series. So we've seen some shuffling around from last season, as our first time on the board is appropriately from Cole Kleck at a 137.5. And Tillman Schmid will follow him up with a 140.9. Pretty significant gap, but it is just the first lap. Drivers maybe just trying to get the tires up to working temperature.
I think you're spot on. Just the first lap, if you can have a, call it, fantastic outlap of getting those tires up to temperature, getting the brakes exactly where they need to be in terms of that bite point to make sure when you jump on that brake pedal, it's actually going to decelerate the car at its greatest amount. And sometimes it takes a couple laps for those drivers to get everything into those optimum temperatures for that perfect lap time.
Now, I mentioned Laura Eli, one of those that has come over for this series. The 234 is turned around. That looks like, I think, the exit of 2.
Yeah, and this, I think, is actually a little bit of a dangerous area to be in, because the cars coming up to turn 2, they cannot see this car parked right on the racing line at driver's exit. Thankfully, there's a corner station as you go up the hill, so they're all aware that there's a yellow flag out there, but they still have to navigate that stopped car.
Hope he's able to get it going, because the flashers are on, so something seems to be amiss there. He's not immediately taking off, but if we can, we'll keep this session going. We've already had at least one red flag interruption during qualifying earlier today. The point I was about to make is that Laura Eli actually got a penalty for speeding in pit lane. So she had to come back in and serve a 15-second hold in her stall. There she is now. Car still stationary. They do have a note from race control that there's the yellow flag at turn 2. So everybody's been made aware. And now we get a red flag to stop the session.
I think that's the right call. This car is directly in the racing line, and you want to protect everybody out there. And if it can't get moving, then everybody else needs to slow down and avoid at a cautious pace. And very unfortunate for the 234 to kind of be parked up there at the top of turn number 2. I'm sure that's not what they had in mind for their qualifying session.
That's Sean McCaig. Now, what's interesting, I'm pretty sure Sean only got it 1 lap in. And both the fastest laps are going to be deleted. So, again, if Sean is unable to get this car back out there, then he's going to be starting from the back of the fields. The rules as they sit this year is that if you cause a red flag, your 2 fastest laps will be deleted. Oh, and he's moving.
And you know, I think that he's probably doing the right thing. I see some definite smoke coming out of the back. It could just be some residual oil that kind of had found its way into the exhaust and whatnot after spinning around. So it looks like it actually cleared up, and I'm not surprised to see that car get moving. If it's healthy, why not continue on? However, as a driver, when you're sitting there looking over the crest of the hill, you don't know what's coming up. You don't know if there's a car directly there at turn number 1. So what happens if you decide, all right, it's time to go, and somebody comes and all of a sudden you've got a head-on collision? So I think both from race control, good job to throw the red flag, and then also from the driver to stay safe up there.
Yeah, well, I am glad to see that car we will be able to get going, hopefully be able to take part. I'm actually not sure about the rules on if you cause the red flag, if that means you can no longer take part. We'll double check and see if we can get some clarification on that. But this does halt us for a little bit. We should likely, since that car is now moving, be able to get going at least with 10 minutes to go.
Agreed. I think the only thing the track probably has to double check on, seeing that little bit of a puff of white smoke, just make sure that there's no fluid down on the racing line, that there was nothing dropped by that car. But you're right. I think it should be relatively easy to call it regroup everybody down here on pit lane, get all the engines fired back up, and then get the race cars back out there on this beautiful Sonoma Raceway.
Yeah, what a fantastic weekend to have this on. We understand last weekend was pretty miserable conditions out the whole time. And while it is a little bit chilly in the morning currently, since it is still April here in Northern California, during the day it gets to just a beautiful 75 degrees or thereabouts with the sun shining on the track. And that does make it a bit warm, especially in the cockpit. But once you're out of the car, it is absolutely wonderful. In fact, it's kind of interesting because they haven't even brought the cars into their pit stalls. They're all lining up at the end of pit lane right now.
Drivers, they get antsy, right? They want to get back out there, and sure enough, already we got the green flag waving, so there was no point to stopping in your pit stall unless you wanted all those cars to get in front of you.
Yep, just a couple came in, including the 234 who we saw stopped on the racetrack. They're actually looking it over right now just to make sure that everything is okay with the car. And then I also see, I think the 277, I'm trying to see who that is. There's an orange car parked at the end of pit lane in his stall.
And I know you're questioning about the red flag and if they can get back going. Now, in part 1 of qualifying, just a couple minutes ago, we saw a car have a flat spot, and they were going to go ahead and change that tire and send them back out. So that car did not get back out on the racetrack, but I would assume that if you do cause a red flag, you probably can go out there and qualify again. However, those lap times before are not allowed.
McCaig is getting back out on track. And seeing confirmation from race control, 234 for causing a red flag in qualifying is losing his 1 fastest lap that he set. Thankfully should have enough time to go back out and set 2 quick laps again. And I believe that is just the lap that he set before the red flag is what gets deleted. So now from here on out, it looks like he should be allowed to keep going. We've got a lot of cars that are showing as stopped on my timing screen.
I think that's just timing and scoring, getting back updated,
Okay.
but kind of back to your loss of 1. It's good. It's not 2. There's no rollover laps, is there?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I don't think he'll be penalized afterwards for it. So kind of gamed the system in a very weird way, but probably not how you would want to. As we watch the 261 of Herb come up and over. He's currently our last driver to have set a time. Laura Eli is the only one that hasn't put one on the board because remember she had to serve that penalty. So unfortunately she was kept from even getting out there. Now she's actually more under the gun than anybody else because if she doesn't get something that's counting on the board, she's also going to be starting from the back of the field.
Coming from a driver's perspective, it's an interesting qualifying situation, right? Where you got out there and probably only got 1 or 2 laps going before we had that red flag, and then you got to come back down pit road, get everything reset, and then almost immediately get that green flag again. So there's a lot of hurry up and then wait out there as a driver, but when it comes time to perform here in this last 8 minutes, you got to get it done.
I was able to figure out who that car is parked at the end of pit lane. That's Cole Kleck. So he set his lap time and basically put his feet up and said, all right, come and beat that. And, I mean, I don't blame him.
Yeah.
Look at our tower. 1.8 seconds to Tillman Schmid.
It was an impressive lap that 211 put down, and it was immediately, I want to say that was the first lap that Kleck was able to actually put a time on the board, and you're right, 1.8 seconds over Schmid in the 277. But going back to my point, we didn't really have very many laps before that red flag. I think some things will kind of pick up here with the rest of the field.
Yeah, we'll see if they can get closer, but I wouldn't be too shocked if Kleck does still come away with the pole, just based on the speed we've seen out of him in the one race we've had so far this season, although albeit quite a different track than what we have here at Sonoma, but I have no doubts that speed will translate pretty decently well as the 285 comes down through the S's and then into the braking of the chicane here at the end.
And I was just going to point something out. The driver that you had just mentioned, Laura Eli, she's actually jumped up into 10th place in that Black Sheep Racing machine. A 141.1 puts her on the board, so at least a time on the board.
Exactly. And Kyle Washington just went quickest in the Masters class in the first sector. Second sector was not an improvement on his best, but we'll see what the 222 car does on the last one around. We continue to watch the 285 of Poole here on our screens. Try to put another lap on the board. 6.5 minutes left to go to try and set one. Of course, they are able to complete those hot laps as well. So have to keep that in mind that once the checkered flag comes out, if you're still on that flyer, you can actually finish that one as long as you haven't gone by the checkered flag once already. So as Kyle Washington, I'm checking, and he did not improve this time, it looks like, as he still sits at a 139.4.
One thing is, as we're watching the 274 go around the racetrack here, so this is Kenton King, and he's actually up to second on the board. He was just his previous lap. That was his fastest lap, put him right ahead of Schmid in that 277. So keep an eye on Kenton here. Doesn't look like Sector 1, Sector 2 are his personal bests on this lap, but you can always pick up a little bit of time down here in Sector 3. And like I said, currently second in Pro-Am.
And still 1.6 seconds off of Kleck's time. Again, a testament to what he was able to do out there. Let's see what this one looks like, because it is 3 personal best. Oh, no, that's Conley. Josh Conley has moved into second place. It's still 1.2 seconds off of the pole time. Melito also has overtaken King. So now the quick times are absolutely tumbling down if you're not first place.
The board is shuffling about, and I think it's all due to that red flag, right? Everybody was finally warmed up and ready to go, and then they're like, oh, hey, no, you got to come down pit lane. So now that they're back out there on the racetrack, it certainly seems like things are picking up, and yeah, that timing and scoring board shuffling about.
Interesting separation. The Pro-Ams are your drivers with the black box around their numbers on that tower on the left-hand side, and then the blue boxes, those are your Masters. And we don't usually see this separation, if I'm honest. Usually they're all kind of intermingled together for the most part, but it is all Pro-Ams up at the top with Kyle Washington, our provisional pole sitter, was in 6th, now in 7th, as it looks like Mike Mim has really set a good one. He goes up to 3rd.
Yeah, so that lap time out of Mim, a 1:38.9. So I think that Kleck's time all the way on top is still plenty safe from these drivers, but things, call it 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, all kind of figuring out where they want to be.
4 minutes now left to try and set a time. Washington, while he is the pole sitter, is ahead of Williams by about 0.2 of a second, although looks like Williams is coming to pit lane. Oh, and Bowden just moved into 3rd in the Masters, ahead of Todd Perriott. Now, if you've been watching our coverage today and you saw another Perriott, that would be Todd's son, Jack, who races in the USA West Series. Todd currently sitting 4th in the Masters class here in the GT3 Cup class.
Watch these cars dive down through what is turn 4. So much elevation here at Sonoma. I know it almost looks like a little bit of an uphill, but it's more just like a crest before you dive down that carousel section. And now we're riding on board with Perriott here in the 213. So that was that car kind of giving chase in this 2-pack right here. And you just mentioned Perriott currently sitting 4th in that Masters class, 10th overall in this group, I should say, of 15 cars.
Yeah, that's one thing that we unfortunately won't be able to get you on this one, is once they combine the times, who sits where. But we'll have that all sorted by the time we get to the coverage of the race, of course, and have a grid for you. But this still gives us an idea of who is quick out here. And there is a massive discrepancy between our fastest driver and pretty much everybody else in this group, as Cole Kleck is just basically dominating the field in terms of hot laps. 2 minutes left to go. Pretty soon, we're for sure going to be on the final flying lap for most of the cars out on the track as we watch around the hairpin here to come around and try and improve. Boy, really hustling the car to try and get a better time. Let's see what it looks like for Bowden. He stays 3rd in class. Washington, though, has gone quicker and now is 6th overall.
I also noticed just fast lap times are being put in. Like you said, Washington put in his fastest lap to be provisional pole in that Masters class right now. That's a 1:39.4. But I also saw Kenton King. He put in his fastest lap of the day, a 1:39.2. Slides him inside the top 5 in that Pro-Am class as well. And I mean, I know that Kleck is 1.2 seconds out there, but Conley to Mim, a 10.5. Mim to Melito, less than a 10th. Melito to King, a 10.5. I mean, that's 3-4 drivers that are all stacked on top of each other.
It's looking tight in there, which should make for some great racing in the mid-pack, without a doubt. Josh Conley just kind of getting out of the way there, currently sitting 2nd in this group. Honestly, I'm very impressed with Josh Conley after his season last time out in the USA West Series. He did a pretty decent job. Usually was about a mid-pack driver, but obviously showing up here and looking decently quick at this stage. So he's picked up some speed in the off-season. And even though he is joining a much bigger group of drivers, he is showing off that speed as Bowden comes around for another lap once again. Still trying to do better than that 3rd place. A lot of cars now parking in pit lane, as you can see with the P next to their name on the tower.
Let's see if Bowden does improve. He is only 9/1,000ths of a second behind 2nd place in that Masters class. He is currently sitting in 3rd place with a 1:42.217, it looks like. And I'm sorry, 1:39.6. I was looking at the wrong timing there, and it looks like we've got our checkered flag. Mark does not improve on that lap time.
All right, so a couple drivers still out there at the moment. Conley is on track. Washington, Bowden, Perriott, Vitiello, Poole, Herb. Looks like Washington, though, has just parked it, so he is our latest to call it a day as we wait for just a couple more to come to the line. You can see a bunch of them here from our Yokohama blimp coming down into the final chicane, as well as a few in the carousel.
Looking at timing and scoring, I think I see that even though that Bowden crossed the line, I'm not sure if he was able to get out before the checkered flag.
There's no checkered flag next to his name, so he should still be out there.
And he's just set his fastest Sector 1 time. And looking through the field, it's a pretty competitive Sector 1, so maybe that 246 can kind of sneak one in at the end.
Watching Vitiello, well, he did have a personal best second sector, but it wasn't anything special in the third, so he stays in 11th overall. That leaves just Perriott, Bowden, and Conley. And unless Conley can somehow find 1.2 seconds, I don't think he's going to wind up quickest of this group. So not expecting him to jump up from that P2, but you never know as the last of them come to the hairpin now. And Bowden will cross the line, some of the first amongst them. Doesn't go any faster. He stays in ninth. Then from there, it is Conley and Poole, and no changes from how they were on the previous lap. It stays as is, as our second group has finished qualifying in the Porsche Sprint Challenge North America GT3 Cup Series. Cole Kleck, how about that? 1.2 seconds quicker than anybody else in his group is our fastest car, with P2 going to Josh Conley, Mike Mim in third, Tony Melito in fourth, and King in fifth. And it's Kyle Washington in the sixth spot, Tillman Schmid P7, Williams in eighth, and Mark Bowden in ninth. Todd Perriott rounding out your top 10. Frank Vitiello will be 11th as Laura Eli 12th, Poole 13th, and McCaig 14th. Thomas Herb in 15th. Just a little break before we head off to our final qualifying session of the day. Stick around. We will see the USA West Series take the track in just a few moments' time.